And they are left with the waste matter. So this is one difference in which the shamanic revival, neo-shamanism, differs from the traditional role, is in its emphasis on each individual has the ability and the necessity and the right, certainly, to practice, desirability of practicing it yourself. See for yourself. Find out for yourself. Go for yourself. Go and see. See what you can learn. And the other, to me, very, well, this is not really a difference from before, but let me say something about what I think is the significance of this, and both Terence and Joan have already alluded to it. It's because the pre-literate shamanic aboriginal cultures, primal cultures, have preserved this sort of shamanistic, animistic, pagan worldview, is one of the reasons why it's important for us to study these cultures and to study our own past. Because we had that, our own ancestors had that kind of relationship to nature, which is completely different. They had a relationship to nature that was based on a sense of community with nature. This is one of the things Thomas Berry, the philosopher who's just come out with this extraordinary new book called Dreaming the Earth, emphasizes. The notion of community needs to be extended from the one that we usually are used to, the human community, to a community of humans with animals, with plants, with the natural elements of the environment, the earth itself, and with the spirits that dwell in it. This interconnectedness, interwovenness, which we have lost, which is exemplified in and emphasized in some scientific movements, particularly the Lovelock hypothesis, the Gaia hypothesis of Lovelock, which states that the world, apparently on scientific evidence alone, behaves like a living organism, like a living, breathing, giant organism, like a supercell. And the deep ecology movement, which says that ecology is not just a matter of preserving our resources, it's a matter of shifting out of an anthropocentric viewpoint, a human-centered viewpoint, into a biocentric viewpoint, in which life is at the center. And our task is to do everything we can to preserve and sustain life, and everything we can to avoid harming or to try to minimize the harm or the intrusion or the invasion or the destruction of anybody else's habitat. That the whole thing is interwoven in a unity. Now, Gaia, the notion of Gaia, the world by itself, there are certain limitations in that view too. For one thing, the Gaia hypothesis, as a scientific hypothesis, I think it's a major step forward in science. It's not quite the view of animism, because animism says that not only is the earth alive and all the different parts of the earth are alive, but these are sacred intelligences. So if you say the earth is alive, but you're still talking from within a mechanistic worldview, then it's alive in the way other animals and plants are alive, which is basically like a machine. Animals and plants, according to mechanistic biologies, are just self-reproducing machines. Self-regulating, self-reproducing machines. It's still a mechanistic worldview. We don't need to speculate about what Lovelock's views might be personally. They might be quite different from his scientific hypothesis. So it's okay to have the hypothesis, but I think the next step that still needs to be taken, that involves an integration of science and spirituality, which have also become separated, is to recognize that nature is not only alive, the earth is not only alive, but it's intelligent, we can communicate with it, and through direct means, and it's a sacred world. It is in fact interlinked with the existence and the viability of the earth itself. And when you think about it, you look at the spiritual, artistic expressions, the literature, the sacred texts, the symbols, the architecture, the sculptures, the paintings, and so forth. When you really see it, the role of nature, animals, plants, in all cultures. Even, the religious traditions that are most separated from nature are, of course, the three Western monotheistic, patriarchal monotheistic religions of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. They have the worst record as far as a negative relationship to nature and earth, even although there are exceptions within each tradition, particularly in individual mystics. But the overall orthodox view of the system itself tends to be, in all three of those religions, rejecting of nature, fearful of nature, and seeing spirituality as really transcending nature. So, in Islam, you have this notion of the nafs, that are the animals. It's like the ego. The ego is symbolized by animals. And we have to, they are simultaneously our enemies that we have to get beyond. Well, see, this is a very different view than you would gain from the animistic religions, which has said, well, the animals are not our enemies, neither the animals inside us nor the animals around us. The animals are our brothers and sisters, our relations, all our relations, both in the spirit form and in the real form. So we can cultivate this relationship with the spirit, the soul of the animal, as well as with animals that we actually might know of, flesh and blood and fur and four legs and wings. And the worldview that's emerging, this will be my last point now before we break, what I want to emphasize here is the recent realization that this animistic, shamanistic, pagan worldview that we're rediscovering, reconnecting with, and appreciating anew its value and its significance for our time, this significance becomes even more acute when you realize that in shamanism, they talk a lot about the importance of connecting with your ancestors. And in work that I've done individually and with groups, this is more and more becoming apparent that connection with the ancestors, connection with animals, spirits, guardian animals, and connection with ancestors, guardians, is an essential part of the process. And this is where the tie-in comes from psychology, psychotherapy into shamanism. Psychotherapy, you do a lot of work with your parents to clear up your relationship with your parents and any negative charge there. That needs to happen before you can connect with your ancestors. The parents are your first ancestors. If you're not clear with them, you can't go any further back than them. Okay. And the connection with the animals is actually really a part of that, because the animals are our ancestors. We are animals. We are descended from animals. So the primates, the mammals, the reptiles, the amphibians, and the fish, that's our animal ancestry as orders of life, as kingdoms of life. But our human ancestry were hunter-gatherers for a couple of 100,000 years before they started farming and building cities with walls around them. Couple of 100,000 years of hunter-gathering, of wandering, of tribal existence with shamanic worldview, with a view of necessity of total sensory communication, maximal sensory communication, fluidity, discrimination with the natural world. These were our ancestors. And then you get into this realm of prehistory. Terence referred to the work of Ria and Isla, which in turn is based on the work of the archaeologist Maria Gimbutas, whose major discovery over the last 20 years has been to uncover the goddess religion of old Europe, as she calls it. Europe before the invasions of the Indo-Europeans, the Indo-Aryans who came from Central Asia and invaded India from the north, the Mediterranean basin, and Western Europe in wave after wave after wave of invasion. These were nomadic horse people. They had domesticated the horse, and they had discovered how to make bronze weapons. And they started invading around 5000 BC, and wave after wave after wave, pushing and invading and preying on, really functioning